Back, sports fans. In this segment, I'm going to be discussing Max Kellerman of ESPN's comments about the Detroit Pistons and what he had to say, particularly about the 2003, 2004 championship team, and for a few years going forward from there. Max Kellerman was asked, or there was discussion on ESPN's First Take earlier this week about if the Pistons had drafted Carmelo Anthony, would they have been able to win more than one championship with the group that they had? And while Stephen A. Smith and Jay Williams unequivocally said yes, which I would tend to agree with, though we'll never know, Max Kellerman seemed to think that the 2003-2004 Pistons would not even have won the championship that they did, though he did state that he thought in later years they would win at least one championship with Carmelo Anthony. Considering that the Pistons drafted Darko Milicic, number 2 in 2003, and considering what his career turned out to be compared to what Carmelo Anthony's career turned out to be, and for those of you who don't know how Carmelo Anthony's career has panned out, the last time I checked, he was in the top 12 or 15 in scoring, albeit he's not been past the first round of the NBA playoffs more than once in his career. That much is true, but you cannot take away from him all the points he has scored. I mean, it's been incredible. And while he's not terribly known for his defense, still in all, I mean, he's been pretty much a scoring machine. Now, would that have fit into, the Chauncey Billups, the Rick Hamilton, Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace Piston teams? I don't know. But I think he would have found a way to fit in, considering how well they were playing. From a chemistry standpoint, like I said, I have no idea. I do agree he would have come off the bench, though, at least his first couple of years, and I think eventually he would have become a starter. But there's no reason to think, based on talent alone, that the Pistons would not have won multiple championships. And when you think about the year after they won the championship with the 5-game sweep of the Lakers in the finals of 2004, they lost the Spurs in 7 games the next year. And it was a tough 7-game series. Are you telling me having Carmelo Anthony might not have been the difference maker in that series? I tend to think it could have been. I don't know, and again, we'll never know. But why wouldn't it have been? And then you look going forward a little bit from there. They lost to Shaquille O'Neal and the Heat in 2006 in a very tough series. Again, if they'd had Carmelo Anthony, would he have been a difference maker? They could have gone to 3 straight finals like they did between the 88-89 season the 87-88 season and the 89-90 season, of which the subsequent year was their 5th straight Eastern Conference Finals. This team could have been very similar to the Bad Boys era. And they had similar talent. I mean, they certainly had a bad boy in Rasheed Wallace. Ben Wallace was as good a defender at the time, and I'd say he was the Dennis Rodman of his time. And Rick Hamilton and Chauncey Billups were comparable to Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars, perhaps not quite as good as those two, but they were very comparable. And then on top of that, they had a guy by the name of Tayshaun Prince, who to me was a very terrific player, and I wish they never would have traded him, which years later they did. So for Max Kellerman to state what he stated really bothers me, especially going back to it. He thinks they would not have gotten past the Pacers. Well, he was mistaken in the fact that he had stated the year, and we're going back to 2003-2004 season when they played the Pacers, and I looked this up just to make sure I was right, as I recall, and I was, that they did beat the Pacers in 6 games. So it was not a 7-game series, and that series was most notably, or I don't want to say most notably, but the remarkable thing that came out of that series, and one of the best plays I've ever seen in Piston history, was the Tayshaun Prince block of Reggie Miller when he had a clear breakaway hoop, which was not even discussed. So there's no reason for me to think that with Carmelo Anthony that the Pacers would have somehow beaten that Pistons team. I think that's just ludicrous, and I think it's totally ridiculous. And I don't know if Max Kellerman has a problem with Detroit all of a sudden, but the way he's been talking about, the way he's ragging on a very good championship Pistons team, plus his statement earlier in the last segment that I mentioned about the Detroit Lions, it seems to make me wonder a little bit about him. And again, I welcome you, Max, to come on at Sports Channel and we can discuss this. I have no problem with that. We can discuss it off camera, on tape, off tape, you name it. I have no problem in facing you in a sports showdown, man. Not at all. But do realize that Stephen A. Smith and Jay Williams both took you to task on your comments. And do realize I will take you to task on your comments. Not because they did, but because I remember those Pistons teams. And I remember that they beat the Pacers in not 7, but 6 games. Plus the 5-game sweep of the Lakers. Yes, you may have predicted that they were going to sweep the Lakers, but I'm going to tell you, a lot of people, including me, did not think they were going to beat the Lakers that year. Not at all. I thought the Pistons were still 1 year away at that time from being a championship team, and that the Lakers were going to hammer them. So like I said, Max, you have an open invitation to discuss this on Ed Sports Channel. I hope you take me up on it. And that concludes another show, ladies and gentlemen, of Ed Sports Channel. Stay tuned for further episodes. Thank you and good day.